There's more to rail service than transportation. In the case of the Fairmount Indigo line, the revival of service betokens a grassroots movement and one of the city's most ambitious attempts at planning. It was a community-led process supported in part by the Boston Foundation. The foundation recently came out with a report about the line showing gains in ridership as well as a need for more improvements. Joining us is the project manager for the report and the foundation's senior director of neighborhoods and housing, Rebecca Koepnick. Thank you very much for being with us, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, talk about your own experience riding this line. What was it like?
Right, so I've ridden the line a number of times, and you know, when you're in South Station, it's really interesting. It doesn't even say Fairmount line, it says Reedville line. So right from the beginning, it's a little hard to find. But once you get on the train, it's fast, it's clean, and you're surrounded by a lot of school kids trying to get to and from school. A lot of folks headed to work. And it's a quick ride, you know, only 20 minutes start to finish. So it really is much faster than, you know, hopping on the bus or even trying to take an Uber.
Yeah, talk about that difference of mode here, because I have not ridden a train in this service, but I have gone through these neighborhoods. I've ridden on the number 23 bus. You know, that takes eons. Yes.
So you can actually save, our report found, 50% of your travel time by taking the Fairmount line as opposed to the bus service in between the neighborhoods. So it is, you know, a much faster experience for that inter-neighborhood travel.
Well, when this started, I thought this was going to be a way to connect people in, you know, Hyde Park, Mattapan, and Dorchester with jobs downtown. Yeah. And in some cases, that's happening, but that's not necessarily the main generator of the rides, I guess.
Right, it is different from other commuter rail lines. You usually think of commuter rail, right? You get on in your community, you stay on it to the very end to South Station, get off and go to your job. And a lot of people do that on this line, but actually 40% of people are using it off-peak, meaning that they're not using it, you know, before 9 and before 5. Or around 5 o'clock. And also a lot of people use the line just for, you know, to get to Upham's Corner to Newmarket or Upham's Corner to Four Corners. It really operates much more than any other commuter rail line as a way to get in between those neighborhoods and those stops.
Well, talk about the increase in your ridership that you've seen.
Yep, so in the report we did the first count on the line since the new stations opened that you referred to, and there's actually been a tripling of ridership since those stations opened. So there's about 2,200 people, or 2,200 rides on the line on a daily basis, which, while low maybe for the commuter rail system, is in line with some of those other close in what are called Zone 1 and Zone 1A stations.
Well, tripling sounds impressive, but I guess your baseline was probably pretty low. So,
yes.
So compare, is that really all that impressive? Or?
Well, considering that there's been no marketing of this line, this is just people who literally stumble upon the train line. If you've been out in the neighborhoods, you'll see that the stations aren't well marked. There's very little signage. The schedule isn't posted out front. So you have to be, you know, a bit of an urban explorer to find find the stations for yourself. And so considering the sort of lack of publicity, I think it is actually pretty impressive that people have found these on their own.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Rebecca Koepnick from the Boston Foundation. Yeah, talk about that, because, you know, I've seen stations on the Red Line, you know, Fields Corner, and,
right.
and here it is. You've got stations that are either off to the side, they're above grade, or they're below street level. You know, you could easily just miss them.
Yep, and the other thing is the way the neighborhoods have grown up and have developed is that some of the main business districts are actually 2 or 3 blocks from the train stop, which puts you at sort of a further disadvantage. And so the way the stations were designed, they are sort of set back. Sometimes, you know, you have to look around a bridge to see them. Sometimes they're below grade, or they have really long ramps to get up to the station. So it's very hard to know, just standing on the street, you know, is that station open? When's the next train coming? Which way is the train going to be going to South Station or to Reedville? So it's not as intuitive as, say, you know, like a Davis Square kind of situation.
I know this is more of a qualitative question that you didn't necessarily explore in the report, but what about the feel of security? Because when we talk about Fields Corner Station, you're always going to see a lot of people around there. Whereas some of these stations I've gone by, they look almost deserted.
No, and I think that's a big challenge, especially for folks who ride the trains, that tell us sort of qualitatively that, you know, you could, the platforms are really, really long and the trains are not that long. And so even if there are a lot of riders, you could be pretty spread out. And so there isn't this sort of feel of hustle and bustles and eyes on the street that you get in a normal T station. And they are sort of, in many cases, sort of surrounded by trees. They're at the backs of buildings, so you don't feel like anyone could really see you if you did have, if something should happen.
Well, you're writing about essentially a rapid transit line that doesn't run like a rapid transit line. So what if
Yes.
it did run like one? What would that mean?
So I think what that would really mean, I think there's a lot of things that would need to happen before it started running as a rapid transit line, but what it would mean is give these neighborhoods the same access to jobs, to school, to medical appointments that, a lot of the rest of us who live off the red line or the orange line are enjoying right now. This is very much a transit desert in a lot of ways, where people are relying on unreliable buses.
Well, your report mentions some of the hurdles to making this a user-friendly service,
Yeah.
and one that I was a little surprised to read about is how you pay for it.
Right. So you would think, so one of the great things about the Fairmount line is it's same fare as the T line, as the red line or the orange line. It's $2.50, but you don't have the same transfer policy. And so if you're taking the Fairmount line to Upham's and then trying to get on the bus, you have to pay for the Fairmount line and then pay for your bus. So you're paying twice as much as you would if you just took the bus. When you're talking about some of the lowest income neighborhoods in the region, that's a big hurdle to people using the train, is this extra cost that they have to pay if they transfer.
Another problem you cited, even though this is a relatively short trip, there's still a certain amount of congestion in part of the line.
Right, and so at the very end between Newmarket and South Station, and I think everyone knows South Station has a lot of traffic issues, that part of the train ride actually takes an extra 8 or 10 minutes. It takes a very disproportionate amount of time to get there just because of the congestion on South Station with all the other commuter rail lines, Amtrak, and everybody trying to get in there.
Well, a couple of the other reasons the Boston Foundation has been interested in this line is because of the potential for new housing, even for jobs. Anything you can say about how the line has been delivering on some of that?
Right, so a lot of the community development corporations in the area, including the Southwest Boston CDC, Dorchester Bay CDC, Codman Square NDC, are actually developing transit-oriented housing along the line right now, so that when hopefully more rapid service comes, there'll be affordable housing right near the train station so that the folks who have been living in the neighborhood will be able to remain there.
Right. We should finally mention that if people want to explore this and they haven't done this already,
Yes.
now is a pretty good time to do it because
Yes.
there's a special deal coming in.
Yes, so the Fairmount line is going to be free for everyone, May 8th through May 21st. You just get on the train, get where you need to go. It's a great opportunity to try it out and see if it works for you.
And finally, you've got a report that's up online at the Boston Foundation too?
Yep, on tbf.org. Just click on reports and you'll see the Fairmount Nelson Nygaard report.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Rebecca Koepnick from the Boston Foundation.